my name is Marco Sommer. I'm Product Manager for the SAP Cloud Identity Services. Today I wanted to show you how you can protect access to SAP Cloud solutions using hardware keys. With me, I have a co-speaker from our partner company, YubiKey.
Thank you, Mr. Sommer. Just a few words about myself. My name is Rolf Steinbrück and I'm working as a Senior Solutions Engineer for YubiKey for around about 2 years now. And I will give you later in the presentation a short introduction on the YubiKey. And back to you, Mr. Sommer.
Okay, let's have a look at the demo scenario that we have. Assume that we have a business user who wants to access an SAP Cloud solution. Here we have a demo solution deployed on SAP Business Technology Platform, which delegates authentication to the Identity Authentication service. We'll first authenticate with username password before we enforce stronger means of authentication, allowing FIDO compliant devices to provide a second factor. Okay, this here is our small demo application. Let's initiate a login request, which is forwarded to the Identity Authentication service. Let's provide username and password, and I should be granted access to the application, which is in fact true. I was successfully authenticated. Now, before continuing, I want to show you how you can register a FIDO device in the user's profile. This is either possible in the profile directly or when accessing an application which requests a second factor. But let's have a look at it directly in the profile. For that, I navigate to the profile of this demo user. Here we have a certain chapter for web two-factor authentication, and I will add a device. I already registered a device for two-factor authentication, a TOTP device, so I have to provide code before I'm entitled to register an additional device. Okay, press activate, enter the YubiKey into the USB port. I have to provide a PIN. And thereafter the YubiKey is registered in my user profile. Okay, for the demo purpose I log out. Okay, now let's change the configuration for access to the demo application. Here in the admin console of the Identity Authentication service, I navigate to the demo application, go to Authentication and Access, where we have the chapter for risk-based authentication. It would be possible to configure rules so that only certain users would have to provide a second factor. Here I'm going to adjust the default configuration so that every user accessing this application has to provide a second factor. Actually, for web authentication, thus any FIDO compliant device should be possible. Let's have a look how the behavior changes for when accessing the demo application. I again initiate a login request, provide my credentials. This time I'm asked for a second factor. I have to enter the YubiKey, specify the PIN, touch it, and thereafter I'm granted access to the demo application. Okay, that worked perfectly fine. Now I'm going to give it a try with a different demo user for whom I have registered a different YubiKey, actually of the YubiKey Bio series. Let's again initiate a login request. I have my demo user called FIDO. Provide the password of this user to specify PIN. Touch the key, but this time I get an error message. My device is obviously not supported and I should register a new device. Now let's check why that was the case. There is actually an additional tenant-wide configuration for multi-factor authentication. This configuration here is optional in case an administrator wants to allow only certain devices and grant users access if they use such a device. We see here that I've already registered the YubiKey 5 series and allow it. Now I'm gonna specify an additional one, this time, as mentioned, the YubiKey Bio series. Actually, YubiKey Bio is not one of the pre-populated devices that we have in the identity authentication service. I have to get the authenticator attestation GUID from the website of the particular vendor, and then I can add the YubiKey Bio as an additional device. Now let's see whether the change was successful, and I will also be able to access the demo application with my second test user. So once again, I'm asked for a second factor, provide the PIN, and thereafter I'm granted access to the application. Okay, so far to the demo. Now let's have a look behind the scenes and learn about the difference about two YubiKeys that we used here. Back to you, Mr. Steinbrück.
Thanks, Mr. Sommer. So let me use the opportunity to explain why all of this is important. The number one security problem is stolen credentials. Data breaches are today one of the biggest threats to businesses, and the leading cause is stolen credentials. With so many remote workers outside of company walls, the world has seen a sharp rise in phishing and targeting attacks. Passwords alone as security should be a thing of the past and are no longer secure. But, and this is very important, the same applies to insecure MFA solutions such as OTP, SMS, mobile push, and many others. Therefore, I can only recommend to everybody to use phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication such as a YubiKey. What exactly is phishing-resistant MFA? A phishing-resistant MFA is an authentication process that is immune to attackers either intercepting or tricking users to revealing their credentials. An example, using strong public key cryptography for authentication, such as smart card or FIDO, or with FIDO 2, for instance, once a user registers a YubiKey to a service, it is bound to that original URL and cannot be tricked to log on to a fake website, making the YubiKey an effective defense against phishing attacks. But coming back to the original question, what is the main difference between the YubiKey 5 series and the YubiKey Bio? The YubiKey 5 series is a multi-protocol key, which means the YubiKey support different authentication standards like FIDO2, which we use today, but also smart card and different OTP standards. So the YubiKey 5 series could also be used for other use cases, protecting, for instance, online accounts, SMIME, etc. The YubiKey Bio is a biometric key, but only supports FIDO. This also applies to the blue security key. It is only a FIDO key. In the use case just shown earlier in the presentation, the FIDO protocol was used. That means all YubiKeys shown here support the use case. That's it from my side. Thanks.